most common mistakes during printing, particularly with your technology, those curves that you're working constantly with your customers that are kind of more detailed? Obviously, we know like the mix can be a little bit wrong, but is there something else out there that you're not going to find into YouTube?
Main lesson, shrinkage. Shrinkage, beware of shrinkage. It can be controlled successfully, but you have to beware of shrinkage, right? So this is when you're printing, you don't add curing compound, which sometimes we don't have to, but sometimes we do, depending on the geometry, and this is based on experience. Shrinkage is an issue. You can add plastic over the top of an element to cure it. This helps a lot. Shrinkage is is an issue for any type of concrete for sure. That's the lessons learned. When you're talking about use of robotics, there are many lessons that I could give you. One of them is you have to simulate your print path. So you can design your object and run it through our slicer, but simulate your print path. You got to be careful that you don't run the machine into the ground because you've set up your nozzle differently, or change the height of your print bed. So level your machine and simulate your print. These things will save you a lot of time. Another thing is, the third one is, the main thing in all these things is cleaning. Clean well, clean deep. Have a standard for it, and because when you start up your machine and something isn't cleaned halfway through the print, you can get issues.
I was told that smaller prints are actually are harder because the set time, like you can't just print right over something that you just printed because it's not setting fast enough. But that seems to be wholly untrue, at least in the success that you have had. People have told me that, well, a longer lap around that print is going to give you some time to set.
Yeah, I can give you a quick rundown of the important things there. So we have this, as I said, this construction printing and this architectural printing, and everything in concrete printing. What I've noticed so far is sort of there's a range, there's a spectrum. What you can do with the construction printing when you're talking about with this one component, where there's no accelerant involved, it's just the dry mix alone. If you have one of the faster ones, you can print a column of about a 1 meter circumference that will continue to print without collapsing. But that's the smallest thing you can print, right? So anything bigger is fine, except the bigger you go, the more you have to be aware of your lap time, and the more you have to be aware of your drying time. So what I've seen in larger prints as well, if you make a wall that goes to your entire house, you can have shrinking occur in the beginning. So you have to be careful that you've optimized your mix for that. The smaller prints, the opposite is true, of course. You can go to a maximum of, let's say, for very, very large prints, you don't really want to go over 3 or 4 meters because you're accelerating too fast, right? So there's a very small overlap for which you can use both materials. But generally, if you're doing a very large object, go for the one component, which is slower in setting. If you're doing smaller than 1 meter or 2 meter, then go for an accelerated mix, because that'll give you the better structural stability.